She's such a good actress. Like I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
One interesting thing I noticed, if you remember the first doctor's appointment that she goes for.
Don't you like sometimes as a viewer wish that maybe she should have just like killed herself at that?
If you had a chance where you could take a test and find out whether in the future you're going to get a devastating disease or not, would you want to do something like that? Welcome everyone to the Lost in Thought podcast, episode 5. This is a podcast where we have interesting conversations with interesting people, and I have a very interesting person on the podcast today. Please welcome my friend Devangana Mishra. Hi, Devangana.
Hi, Aditya. So good to meet you and meet you after so long. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice to be talking to you. I think it's been a while since we caught up, and I'm glad we're doing this as an excuse to catch up, but we'll also catch up soon outside of this.
Yeah.
But
and I love your podcast name, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. I knew you would appreciate it.
Yes.
Let me just tell our viewers or listeners a little bit about you before we have our conversation. So Devangana is a writer, an artist, and an actor. She's written a book of poetry called Desierto Florido. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Desierto Florido. Yeah.
Desierto Florido.
Yeah.
And also a verse novel called 26 Kamala Nehru Ridge, Civil Lines, Delhi. That's the name of the book and not the address, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she has another book of poetry and prose called May I Bombay You, coming out later this year.
Yes.
Now, I know Devangana because we worked together at Teach for India, and that's another aspect of her background. So she has a background in teaching and developing alternate curriculums and also working with children who are on the autism spectrum. She studied at the Teachers College at Columbia University, where she won the Elise Todden Scholarship for Academic Excellence. Fancy. She's worked with the Jakarta Intercultural School, the Harbour School in Hong Kong, and of course Teach for India, which is where we met. She's been a representative at the World Economic Forum in 2020, which is right before COVID, if I remember correctly. And right now she's the founder of Brain Bristle Foundation, which is an organization that works with children and adolescents who are on the autism spectrum and builds inclusivity in low-income schools for children like this. So really, really good work that you're doing and a really cool person. Have I missed anything about you?
No, that's it. That's awesome.
Okay, I mean, I'm sure I've missed a lot about you, but that's a fair summary is what I meant.
That's a lot. Awesome.
Okay. So Devangana, the movie that we're going to be talking about today is called Still Alice. And I'm curious to know what made you pick this movie.
I think like we pick books or we pick movies for what, like I pick big books or movies for one of the two reasons. One is either it feels like really familiar or close or like something I would really relate to, or like something that's totally dystopian and away from my life, and I'm curious to like imagine a world which is totally not mine. I think like I like the idea that, you know, it was like a professor at Columbia University, linguistic professor, had a family, and like just like the idea of this dooming Alzheimer's just hitting her, like just like in your perfect life, anything can happen, and that like kind of like first I didn't want to watch it because I'd be like, oh, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so morose, it's gonna be so bad, and a few of my friends are just like, we don't want to watch it, so I had to watch it alone. But it is really depressing because, like, you know, you've got like a really normally functioning everyday life and something falls. So I think like sometimes I like that reality check in my life that anything can happen at any time, and that kind of like it just felt really relatable, and that's why I wanted to watch it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll start talking about the movie in a minute. But I'm also eager to talk about this movie. This has some personal significance for me, I think, as I told you, because like you said, this movie is about a linguistics professor who undergoes a struggle with Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
And my dad went through something similar. I mean, he passed away a few years ago now, but before he passed away, he had a similar, it was never 100% confirmed as Alzheimer's disease. He also got a similar sort of impairment in his 50s, like the subject of this movie. And he also was a very intellectual person, a doctor. So I think I could relate a lot to this film. And in fact, it came out in 2014 when he had just started developing some of these symptoms. And I wasn't in the country at the time, so I was in the US, and that's where I first watched this film. I remember in the theater.
Yeah.
And I remember back then it was sort of like potentially I was looking at the future. I felt like, is this what our family also has in store? And now this week is when I rewatched it for the first time after those 11 years ago when I watched it before.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it also has that personal significance for me, and I'm eager to talk about it a bit more as well with you.
Yeah.
So should I tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about this film before we get into the details?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is a film called Still Alice. It's a 2014 American film. It's written and directed by two people. It's a duo called Richard Glatzer and Wash Westmoreland. They're actually a married couple. The film is adapted from a 2007 novel of the same name, written by Lisa Genova, who's a neuroscientist who witnessed her own grandmother's battle with Alzheimer's disease. It stars Julianne Moore in the lead role, and Alec Baldwin, Kristen Stewart, Kate Bosworth, and Hunter Parrish to sort of round out a really good supporting cast. So, quick plot summary: Julianne Moore plays Alice Howland, the Alice in the title. She's a linguistics professor. She begins to have memory lapses and is diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease shortly after her 50th birthday. The film is about her struggle with the disease and how that impacts her as well as her family. And like you said, it's kind of depressing, but also inspirational in how she goes about it.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore actually won the Oscar for Best Actress for her performance in this film, so that's noteworthy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this movie's about. I think if you're watching this in India, it's available to stream on Netflix.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about this movie now. We'll be getting into spoiler territory, but this is not really a movie that you can spoil because the premise is sort of the spoiler. It's more about how this person goes about dealing with this devastating news and this devastating disease.
Yeah.
So, yeah, did I miss anything out while describing this movie? Okay. Great. So, Devangana, there are 5-ish reasons why you love this film.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the first one. The first one is the way that they've portrayed or handled Alzheimer's disease in this movie.
I love watching how films show disease, show death, show cancer, show mental illness, show all of that, and sometimes it's very stereotypically clumsily handled. What I loved, Aditya, was it's shown from the perspective of Julianne Moore, from Alice's point of view itself. So you're seeing the world from her eyes, from her life, right from, you can see flashes on the beach of her memory, just grainy, and you can see a little bit of that coming back to her. You see because she's such a good actress, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, but she's such a good actress that you can actually see Alzheimer's take over her life. She's going for a run and she gets lost, and they see that her and Alec Baldwin go get cocoa berry ice cream at the beginning, and towards the end they go and get it again. And you can just see she's washed out and she's just holding on to her husband, she's holding on to her life. And you can just see when she's tying her laces, she's trying to figure out which to put where, and her attempt at trying to kill herself. So I think I love how they've shown Alzheimer's not as that's the plot of the film, but the plot of the film is actually family, marriage, Kate Bosworth giving birth to twins and her holding the baby, her and her husband going out to dinner and she forgetting about it. So I like how they've handled a disease not as a disease, but what happens to your loved ones and to you while you're, and I know you've gone through similar stuff with your dad, but what happens to everybody in a very morose, normal, everyday way. Her daughter, Kristen Stewart, is an aspiring actress, and they're still fighting till the end. So I love the normalcy, but the devastation that they've handled Alzheimer's with. No extra drama, just a very somebody in your house could be dying who someone's very close to you, and how would life go on?
Yeah, I think what struck me is that they actually managed to show the progression of the entire disease.
Yes.
And they do quite a lot of it because the movie is fairly short as movies go. It's 1 hour 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's not a very long movie. And I think given the arc of Alzheimer's disease, this could easily have been a very long movie, like a 2.5, 3 hour long movie, where they spend half an hour just showing how competent and amazing she is.
Yeah.
And then that makes her, decline all the more tragic. I think this could even have been like a mini series or something where, you have like 5 or 6 episodes to show this person's journey.
Yeah.
But they've instead chosen to do this in a 100-minute long movie. But yet it doesn't feel very rushed. I think they touch upon everything important. This at the beginning, like you said, she's a linguistics professor, ultra competent, completely in charge of her life.
Yeah.
And that tells you, I think, why what's happening to her is all the more sad later on. But then they touch upon the slow deterioration at first, then the fast deterioration. And I think, like you said, helped by Julianne Moore's amazing acting.
Yeah.
The entire scope of the disease is covered fairly well across a very short runtime.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's stunning. And you know what, I actually like the fact that they've done that, Aditya, because it doesn't like give you time to just like sit too long in the Alzheimer's, but they like take you through, like, she's giving a lecture and she forgets a word, and like then she goes alone to the neurologist, and then at night she breaks down and she's howling to her husband. So it's all like a very like every like Monday, then next week Thursday something. So I like the pace of the film. You're right, like it's not rushed, but it's beautiful moments captured.
Yeah, and those moments are very well chosen. So the moment you're referring to, I think, is when she's giving a lecture to her students, and then she says something like word stock.
Yeah.
Because she's not able to think of the word lexicon.
Yeah.
And then on the cab ride in the way home, she suddenly remembers, oh, lexicon. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
And I think early on in the film, she's talking to somebody, and I forget who this person is, but that person is actually talking about Julianne Moore's kids in the movie.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore thinks that she's talking about her sister instead.
Yeah.
So I think there are these small early signs of slight confusion.
Right.
Then they have people coming over for like a Christmas dinner or a Thanksgiving, a birthday dinner.
Yeah.
And she greets her son's girlfriend twice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the early signs of it. And then it gets more serious. And like you said, she gets lost on this walk.
Yeah.
And I think there are well-chosen moments that also come back later on in the film. So if you remember early on in the movie, there's that Words with Friends that she's playing.
Yeah.
And she makes some complicated word. I think it's Hudge, H-A-D-J or something.
Yeah.
That again reinforces that she's got a good vocabulary and she's intelligent.
Yeah.
And then later on, when her disease has deteriorated further, you see her playing Words with Friends again like an hour later.
Yeah.
And then it's a much simpler word that she can make, like tone or something of that sort.
Yeah.
So I think they use these small moments also to show the progression of her disease.
And Aditya, like because I studied at Columbia University, and I know that America is always battling this, but America goes through this crisis of intellectual elites, and that kind of has a bad reputation, and intellectuals are trying to outdo each other. There's narcissism that comes in, and I love the fact that they've shown that this is a very smart woman giving lectures at Columbia University, even with her Alzheimer's. They've shown this really smart woman who's out there, resilient, going for, her daughter's play, and discussing with her daughter, what else are you going to do? Go study, go to college, all of that. So she's very intellectual, she's very resilient, but she's just like a soft person, a mom, a wife. I think America sometimes needs this to be shown, that that this side of womanhood, this side of personhood to be shown, because it's such an intellectually battling country, cancel culture, this, that. So yeah.
So you're referring to the fact that people who are very intellectual, very academic, this film is showing the vulnerable human side of them as well.
Yeah. And I think that portrayal under Alzheimer's though, but that portrayal of a real person who's a professor out there, achieving, resilient, running, doing all of that, just a soft side to that person, just at home, eating a dinner. All of that is really important portrayal in American cinema, because we usually see housewives do that, or you don't see a professor's inside life, and I love that.
Right. Usually, if a character is a professor, and especially if it's a woman who's a professor, sometimes the writers will overcompensate and make her very cold and, distant and cut off.
Correct.
And you're right. It's like in this one, you're able to see the soft. She's soft but strong.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah. And one interesting thing I noticed, if you remember the first doctor's appointment that she goes for, the camera is entirely on her. So you don't see the doctor at all. Where you're just hearing the doctor talking about like, okay, have you been under stress lately? He's asking a general question. Then he ends with like, do you have any genetic history of so-and-so thing? And he says, next time you come in, I'd like you to bring like a close family member with you. But the entire first doctor's visit, I noticed, which I didn't notice the first time I watched the movie, but this time I noticed, because it seems like a very conscious cinematic choice that you're only going to keep the camera on her and not show the doctor. But then the second doctor's visit that she comes for, even though she's ignored the doctor's instruction to bring her close family relative, the camera goes back and forth between her and the doctor. And my reading of that cinematography choice or whatever is that that's kind of showing her increasing dependency now, because the first time it's still all about her because she's in charge, she's in control of her life, the camera's on her because it's still her perspective and she still has control over her perspective. Now you start to see a weakening of her perspective because she's not as strong as before. And that's why I think the camera is also now showing that. Like, did you pick up on that, or do you feel like that's true?
Now that you're saying it, I do realize that. Also, like when the first time she's gone to the doctor, she's justifying missing, saying Washington Street, like when he asked her, okay, this address, what, like the street. So she's like, oh, I was talking about my parents, so I forgot that. But like slowly you see that arrogance of, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm saying, just like withered away.
Yeah. And I think at one point the doctor mentions that, for somebody like this who is high IQ, high vocabulary, high intelligence, the deterioration might actually be faster because they've found ways to hide the progression of the disease so far by justifying things, by finding innovative workarounds to thought process that aren't working and stuff. And that's also something that I saw with my dad because, again, like I said, very similar sort of person. Also took a very long time to accept the reality of what was happening. But I think that's spot on in terms of the justification that she says, that she makes an excuse for why, like, oh, that's my daughter's address, or like whatever, that's why I mistook it, or I'm tired, or she'll come up with some innovative excuse to say why she couldn't remember something, right? But I think overall, I think this is a really good portrayal of dementia, of Alzheimer's disease. The only one I can think of which is even more spectacular. Have you seen The Father with Anthony Hopkins?
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, that's highly recommended. I mean, you should watch that. And even for people who are watching or listening to this, I think that's probably the most brilliant depiction of Alzheimer's disease that I've seen on film. And Anthony Hopkins, of course, as you can imagine, is also brilliant in that film. In that, they entirely show it from his perspective. So, like, literally, you're seeing a woman will come in, and later she'll change into somebody else. Like, she'll change into his daughter or his housekeeper or something, because that's the confusion that they're showing in his mind, that, okay, I thought this person was my daughter, but she's actually my housekeeper or something. So the movie plays with that a lot, and it really immerses you in the confusion and bewilderment that he's facing. So that's another recommendation I have since we're on this topic.
Not that I'm like a big fan of Alzheimer's films, but I'll watch it.
Of course.
It sounds good. That's...
Yeah. I mean, not to suggest that everyone should just do a binge of Alzheimer's movies, but...
like dying movies and like disease movies you should watch. No.
But no,
that sounds good.
It just is an obvious connection that came to my mind, so I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, nice. So reason number 2 why you like this movie is the marriage that they've shown between Alec Baldwin's character and Julianne Moore's character, as well as their performances. So you want to talk about that?
So I think like they're both stunning actors in general. Like they're just both so good. But like, I mean, like sometimes you imagine what it must be. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's easy to dramatize. Like, if tomorrow you get to know like your wife is dying. Like, in your head it just seems dramatic, and there's like a background music, la 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 la, like like we've just grown up on a lot of that. But I just think like just the just like 2 in the morning, she's like, I can't sleep, I went to the neurologist, I think I'm dying, and he's like, oh, even I forgot like glucose or something like that. So like just I love how they've shown the strength of the marriage, him getting irritated with her, but him loving her. She pees because she can't find the bathroom, and just like this desperation of this man to see his wife in the intellectual strong woman light that he'd always known her in. They're still like hugging and kissing and making love, but he can also see that his wife is withering and dying, and like just like this dichotomy, Aditya, of the acceptance but also this denial that's always there in the conversations. They go to plays and they go to see babies and they do all of that together. So I think like I love that relationship of the reality of, if you love your life a lot, who's just been like this strong, amazing woman. They live in the Columbia University apartment, like her professor apartment that they live in, like just life falling apart in that apartment. I like to think that they've shown like that marriage of a strong couple really, really well. Um, it's sometimes like hard to show it in a balanced way like this. But like kids coming home, them making dinner together while Julianne Moore is just sitting on the table. Them like take, because now she can't cook anymore, so like Kate Bosworth getting them dinner and like them discussing hospital for a minute, but it was actually like they don't put her in like a old age, like dementia home or anything. So I love that. Um, yeah.
I agree. I think what I really love about it, like you said, is that there's no melodrama attached to it. There's no there's one big emotional scene, of course, where, and I like the fact that that comes early on. So usually what you expect is that in a movie like this, the lead character will be really brave until the end, but then at the end she'll just have this breakdown scene where she realizes the full weight of what's happening to her, and then she'll cry and have like a huge emotional moment.
And sorry,
But
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you and add one thing. But like, do you remember that scene when she like leaves a message for herself that if you see this, like go to the bathroom. If you can't remember this, butterfly ke folder mein kuch tha, like she'll have these medicines, and she tries to like kill herself, but she doesn't die. But like after that, the next scene is just her sitting and having cocoa berry with Alec Baldwin, and he's like, "Hey, you remember that building?" Pointing to her college building, and it's just like they've shown the reality of like sometimes when the worst things are happening, like your father could be dying of something, but actually it's just like, Papa, do you want more sugar in your tea? Right? Like at the reality, that's what life looks like. And it's just like I love how they've shot that. And like towards the end, sorry, one more thing. Towards the end, like you've seen like how Julianne Moore and Kristen Stewart always had a really strong daughter mom fighting, close relationship. And see like Alec Baldwin suddenly taking interest in her. So what's happening about your acting school? So you can see like him maybe probably realizing that I'm going to lose my wife and I'll have to play the father to these girls, which like my dad never asked me about my personal life or anything, but like he's suddenly like asking her questions. So I love how they've like just very subtly shown transitions, very subtly shown the the difficulty but the strength marriages hold when a couple, one member is dying. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think they've shown the everyday aspect of the relationship really well, and I actually didn't notice both of those things that you mentioned, but now that you mentioned them, that it's a nice observation where maybe the reason he is asking his daughter questions at the end is because he's now realizing that he's probably the sole,
Totally.
parent who's able to be like a caregiver or something of that sort. And I don't remember the next scene after the suicide attempt being the yogurt shop one that you're mentioning, but that's a great contrast because
Right.
it's so sad that she doesn't even remember that she wanted to like end her own life, and now she's just again the next thing is something very ordinary and mundane and day to day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like they're a real couple, and it does feel like we're just peering into someone's lives. It doesn't feel like we're looking at a movie that's creating overly dramatic moments to tell the story. And one interesting piece of trivia I came across is that apparently Julianne Moore is the one who suggested Alec Baldwin for the role of her husband in this movie because they've worked together on this sitcom called 30 Rock. So they apparently, they acted together, they had fun. So Julianne Moore suggested him to play the role of her husband.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think I really like that. The marriage is is very well depicted in this film. And I think Alec Baldwin also is very understated in his supporting role.
Totally.
Because clearly Julianne Moore is the one who was...
I think like as a man, sometimes you don't know, like my dad and like, you know, like men in my life, like they don't know how to deal with a woman crying and a woman getting sick and all of that. And I think Alec Baldwin is like very good at that because like you can see that he cares, but like he doesn't know how to show it, so it's like awkward. It's like just like there doing whatever he can.
I think he depicts his emotional journey well, in the sense that first he's kind of taking his wife lightly because he says, "Oh, come on, even I forgot the name of that person or something because it's just a normal part of getting older." Then he realizes that it's kind of serious because she has this big breakdown. Then he's a bit worried because he starts to notice some of the symptoms himself. And I think then he's trying to be strong. One moment that I really love is when they visit the doctor together for the first time. He's pretty calm throughout that meeting, but then he comes out and the lift is taking a while, the elevator is taking a while to come. And he starts getting really annoyed that saying like, how can they have like a hospital this big and only have like 2 lifts or something? And that's very relatable, right? We've all seen that where somebody's just taking out their frustration on some inanimate object because they're really upset about something else.
Totally.
And I think these small moments that he plays
men do that, like men don't know how to like channel. And I think like they've like portrayed a man who loves his family, loves his wife, like him going through a hard time. They portrayed that really well through Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. But also talk about how good Julianne Moore is in this movie. I think we briefly mentioned it, but Oscar-winning performance, so obviously really good. But I was again reading about the work that she did. So she prepared a lot for this role. I think she prepared for 4 months where she spoke to other women who had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and, you know, talked to them, understood their struggles, empathized with them, spoke to various specialists. These are all things that you'd expect an actor to do, I guess. She apparently also underwent that cognitive testing that they show in the movie, like do this test and everything. Obviously, she passed because doesn't have it, but all these things just gave her like a bit more of a window into what life is like for somebody who is afflicted with this. But what did you think of her performance?
I thought it was excellent. Actually, like it's funny because, you know, you're right. Like in the first scene when she goes to like, you know, when she's giving a lecture, and in the first few scenes you can see after the run and when in the doctor's office, they're just like showing her face. And then like through the film, you can just see that face like get blank and get aged. And I don't know if you remember that play scene where, you know, Kristen Stewart is in a play and she comes out from the play. You can see like Julianne Moore has just become like she's speaking, but like there are no emotions in her. It's almost like she's like, you know, it's interesting. They said she's a professor of linguistics. So at the end, she's speaking things, but you can see like a complete like deprivation of any emotion, and she's shown that throughout. It's just beautiful, except for like when she's fighting maybe with like her husband or like she's yelling at her daughter, like you see a spark of emotion. But like Julianne Moore's shown Alzheimer's in such a stunning, amazing way because like you know, show not tell. I teach kids that, but it's almost like you can see that, you know, she's talking to her daughter. Oh, that play was great, and this and that, and she's even like talking at the Alzheimer's conference where she's giving that speech. But there's no like visible emotion to her, and that like feels really eerie to me because I'm just like can that happen to somebody who's just alive, but like in their head, their brain is just fallen, and there's things going on, but you can't make sense of one to another. And then they suddenly contrast that with like scenes of the beach where like somebody's running and people are flying and, you know, kids are laughing, and it's almost like, you know, a sudden like a suction into a time when maybe she had memories and happiness and joy, and now it's all wiped out. I don't know, like I found all that like really to think about, like actually somebody who is just like going through it. I think she depicted it really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a worthy Academy Award winning performance.
Totally.
The two scenes that you mentioned are two of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I'll just describe them briefly for people who haven't seen it yet or who may have forgotten about them. One is you mentioned, so the family goes to see this play where Kristen Stewart, who plays her youngest daughter, Lydia.
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart, she's an actress in this movie, so she's in a play, and the entire family goes to see this play.
Yeah.
And after the play, Alice is meeting Lydia and saying, "Wow, that was such a great performance, and I really enjoyed it, and you were so good." But as she's speaking from one sentence to another, you can see that she's kind of losing the thread of who's in front of her.
Who Lydia is, yeah.
She kind of forgets that she's a daughter, because by the time she's gotten to the end of a sentence, she's asking her, "So are you going to be back here next year?" And she's talking to her like a stranger. And then her other daughter says, Mom, this is your daughter. This is Lydia. And then she says, "Oh, I know that." Like, again, like covering up the fact that she probably didn't know it. And I think she starts the scene knowing who her daughter is, right? Because she's praising her and she's really proud of her daughter for having done this performance. She starts the sentence having known that. By the time she gets to the end of that paragraph, she's forgotten who her daughter is. And that slow onset of confusion, I think, is very beautifully acted by her.
Yeah.
And what's the second one we talked about just now?
Yeah. The conference, Alzheimer's conference.
The conference, yeah. So the second scene that you mentioned is the conference, which, again, a really beautiful speech, very moving, very well acted. So to describe it to people well into her diagnosis, when she's already deteriorated quite significantly, she decides to give this speech at a conference about Alzheimer's disease. And, she's very intent that she has to write this speech herself, even though she's struggling with words and language and all at this point. And the way that she kind of manages the situation is she has a highlighter pen with her.
Yeah.
And she's highlighting continuously as she speaks.
Correct.
So that she can keep track of which sentence she's already said, which words have already left her mouth, and so on, so that she doesn't kind of lose track of where she is.
Correct.
And even though she's reading out loud, she's keeping track by highlighting as she goes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a difficult thing to do as an actor, probably, because maybe you can talk about it more, but she's speaking words and she's speaking quite tonelessly because she's concentrating on trying to keep track of her words by highlighting. So, and she's also using one hand to continuously highlight. So her words are almost sort of flat and almost emotionless because she's focusing a lot on this other activity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're feeling the emotion of what she's going through.
Yeah.
Also aided by the reactions of the audience and her family and everything.
Yeah.
But can you talk about that scene a little bit?
I think what's interesting is that, like as directors, as writers, as actors, you can portray Alzheimer's in a million ways, right? Like the same still Alice, they could have taken it from the book, but they could have also taken other ideas from it. But I love the fact that they've chosen the scenes, and like we discussed, they've chosen it because the way they've shown Alzheimer's is not like somebody who's just sitting and the world has become blank, or they're getting lost every day, or they're forgetting their children's name. She actually has her memory. You can see even till the end, when Lydia is reading her play to the mom. She's like, Mom, what's this play about? And she's totally wiped out by then Alice, but she knows that it's love, right? So shown a woman who hasn't lost control of her language and her words. But you can see, the crutches she starts to use. There's a scene after, brunch or something, Christmas brunch or something at their home, where the family's outside in the balcony, and I think Alice is still inside, and she's just, looking at them laughing outside. And it's it leaves the audience wondering, Aditya, if she even realizes that's my family. That these were the kids that I've raised. This is my husband. You're almost confused and unsure, and you want to know what must be happening to this woman when she's just looking at this. So I think I love that the kind of things that they've chosen. But even there's a scene in which I get tense in situations like this, but there's a scene in which her and Kate Bosworth are serving dinner at that same Christmas dinner. They're serving salad, and she's putting fruit. I don't know if you remember, she's putting berries. And I was curious, as somebody who's interested in Alzheimer's, to see will she keep putting berries, not realizing how much she's putting? Will she put just the right amount? Will she lose track of what she's doing? But Like they just shown like suspense in times like this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you never see a scene that she's going on pouring water and the water spills over. Like, you know, these obvious things that you would see, you just don't see that. You see
Correct.
like a perfectly running life. She even like goes out for a walk with Lydia and she's discussing a necklace and she's like, you know, this belonged to my mom. So you see that this is a high functioning woman who's losing her
Yeah.
memory, trying to do everything she can to keep that control of her life. Yeah, it's excellent. Like the screenwriting, the way it's being shot, the acting, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Even towards the end, when her daughter, not Kristen Stewart, the other one played by Kate
Yeah,
Bosworth, who has a baby,
yeah,
or
yeah,
I think she has twins,
yeah.
and they go to the hospital, and she's like, "Okay, can I hold this baby?" And
Yeah,
her son-in-law says, "Is that a good idea?" And then she kind of looks
yeah,
sarcastically at him and says, "I know how to hold a baby at least." Like,
yeah,
so you're right. I mean, they do show that she still retains a lot of her functions, and
yeah,
you can still always get the sense that the person she is, a high functioning person, is still in there,
yeah,
even as all of this is happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's
So,
amazing.
reason number three that you like this is the relationship that the mother and daughter have
Yeah,
between Julianne Moore and Kristen Stewart's character.
yeah.
So let's talk about that.
So, you know, I mean, my mom and I are super close to each other, and I feel like, you know, like there's no like there's complete transparency, high emotions, high drama. We fight with each other, we love each other, and I think like the way they've shown that even though the mother is like going through a hard time, losing her memory, losing everything, like just like her passionate relationship with her daughter, which like almost like snaps her out of her Alzheimer's again and again. Like even at the end, you see that. I love that they chose that, like both the writer of the book and Still Alice as the movie, like they've chosen that as an anchor point. So yes, the husband is there and he loves her and he cares her, and it's a very strong marriage of two grown individuals. But like, you know, just like the struggling daughter, she wants to be an actor, she's auditioning for things. But like their heated relationship, Aditya, I think like just keeps bringing back Alice to life. Like you just see a spark of emotions, you see a spark of like tension,
Yeah.
argument, frustration. And I love the fact that with the Alzheimer's, you're just like sinking, but with Lydia, like she's again and again coming back into passion and anger and motherhood. Because I think that's like one of your most passionate relationships that you have in your life, being a mother. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I just think it's excellent, and I think like Lydia is just like Kristen Stewart is such a great actor, and you can see like she loves her mother and she wants her mother to be involved in her life. She's telling her about the play, she's telling her about her things, but she's like getting angry with her about like a fight that they had because Kristen Stewart read Lydia's diary. I don't know if you remember the scene, and then the next day. Kristen Stewart is like, I want to apologize to you because I fought with you, mom. You know, you invaded my privacy. And Alice is just like, what? I don't even remember that, you know, we had a fight yesterday. So, how they've like chosen that mother-daughter relationship almost like an anchor point to hold us up while like Alzheimer's is going up and down in her life.
Yeah. There are many things I love about that relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's the best relationship, the best portrayed relationship in this
I
movie.
think so. I think so.
And yeah, exactly what you said. And I'll add a bit more to it also. I think what I find interesting about that dynamic is that if you look at her other two children, on paper, they're quote unquote more responsible than Kristen Stewart's character.
Yeah.
So you have one son who's like the surgeon and he's chosen the perfect career. And you have the older daughter who is she's married and she's starting a family and she's doing all the responsible things that an adult should do.
Yeah.
And there's friction between Lydia, who's the youngest daughter, played by Kristen Stewart, and Alice, because, like you said, she's sort of like the free spirit in the family. She's doing theater. She doesn't want to settle down. She doesn't want to go to college. Doesn't want to pick a conventional career. And they're always having these fights. So if you look at these three kids on paper, maybe you would guess that the one who would take the most care of the parent in their disease would be one of the more quote unquote again responsible ones. But it ends up being Kristen Stewart's character who is more of the caring one because again she's driven by heart, right? So she's driven entirely by her emotion, and I think her heart and her openness is what leads to conflict with the mother.
Yeah.
But that heart and openness is what leads to her having the strongest bond with her mother compared to the other two children.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think just the scene where they talk about the journal. So Alice reads Lydia's journal by mistake because she's just reading stuff, and she thought she's reading a play, but she was reading a journal.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Lydia sort of respects her mom enough, where even when she's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, she has a fight with her.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, she's not walking on eggshells around her. She's not kind of saying it's okay, like you didn't know what you were doing. She's just getting angry with her. Yeah. And you're right. I think that sort of keeps her a bit alive because she's like, okay, this person, at least this daughter of mine, still thinks of me as me, right? And she's kind of respecting me enough to like yell at me occasionally, even though she's not consciously registering that.
Like because like I mean I have friends who are mothers and I'm very close to my mom. I almost feel like she's like mom sometimes even forget that they're sick when like they with their daughters, like they'll just be like ye nahi kyun nahi kiya wo kyun nahi kiya, like you almost like see that, like you see Alice just like snap out of everything and she's like you should go to college, and Kristen Stewart is just like you can't use your situation to blackmail me into like going to college.
Yes.
So like, you know, it's like, you know, a little bit like that drama is there, like how sometimes parents use their, you know, last few years of life to emotionally blackmail their children. So she's doing that. And it's just like a very like emotionally rich, without like the movie is just super not dramatic, but like that's like a very emotionally rich relationship that the mother and daughter share, where like yes, totally herself and fighting with her mom and like accusing her mom like in a very kind, good way. But yeah, I loved how they've shown that.
Yeah, and I think this was around the time when Kristen Stewart started getting a bit more credibility as an actor.
Yeah.
Because obviously initially when she began her career, she got a lot of hate and mockery, I would say, for Twilight.
Yeah.
And I think she had this unfair baggage of just being like a bad actor just because of Twilight and whatever.
Yeah.
But this was probably around the time when she started picking more roles like this. And I think now today she's one of the most interesting performers and actors in Hollywood. There's one funny piece of information which I realized, which is that have you seen Crazy Stupid Love?
Yeah.
So Julianne Moore is in that.
Correct.
And I think she makes some sort of joke about Twilight in that movie, saying that I saw Twilight and it was such a bad movie or something. So it's just funny knowing that she plays Kristen Stewart's mom in this movie.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And you know, I actually think like they've actually like picked Kristen Stewart as an actor within this intellectual family. And you know, like Julianne Moore is like a professor at Columbia University, linguistics, running all the time, running her house really well, perfectionist. You can see like even on her last days, she tying her shoelaces, perfect like running outfit, gym gear, all of that. And then you see like with her, you almost see Lydia as a complete contrast, right? Like her hair is disheveled. Like you can always see Julianne Moore's hair perfect, and like, you know, even in the last day, you can see like a blow dry is there and things like that. But you can just see Lydia the complete opposite, disheveled, hair all over, just an actor lounging around, always on the computer with her mom. So like I think it just like contrasts with like Alice's perfect type A personality, like just like this girl, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you're right. I think she's more. I think Kristen Stewart also has a tendency to pick roles of like people who are slightly awkward and slightly disheveled and all of that. Which I didn't notice that contrast as much. In fact, the other two children in the movie are also kind of like Julianne Moore only. They're very perfectly put together and always well groomed and, you know, polished and whatever. And this one is sort of the anomaly.
No, it's great because I think it brings out both of, like, you know, when you've got two contrasting personality, it accentuates both of those really well. And I think that's what it does. Like, you know, you can see their relationship, their dynamic, like it's really good. And they're both acted like it's so real, it's so natural. Like you could like just see them like your neighbors and be like, huh.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about reason number 4 why you like this movie, and that's just the sense of knowing that anything can happen to anyone at any point.
Yeah. So I have a lot of like friends, writer friends, screenwriter friends, director friends, and like I'm always like curious why there's always like a monetary aspect, like a market mein chalegi ki nahi, good actors and all, but like there's always a philosophical aspect. Like as a writer, when I pick a book to write about, as professions, when I do something, it's always from like, yes, like will this work in the market, but there's always like a moralistic philosophical bent to why you do what you do, right? That's where our humanity sits. And I think like what I love about this is they've actually shown like a really like normal, like no drama to the marriage, normal 3 kids. Middle daughter is given birth to twins. There's a new surgeon's like a surgeon's son, scientist husband. So you've seen like an actually like a normal nuclear family going about their life. Um, Alex Alec Baldwin is going to be flying out for a conference. She's going out for another conference. She says, "Oh, I might have had too much champagne at lunch," when she forgets a little word in the lecture. So it's a very like everyday life. It could be your life, my life, right? Like just like sitting around, and then suddenly your earth falls and slips from underneath your feet. And I think like through the movie, like why I have so many friends who don't want to watch it is because you don't want to live with the fear that at any moment anything can happen, right? Like they're just like a not like they're not struggling financially. They're all beautiful actors. Like they've actually like I think like why they also picked a beautiful cast of Kate Bosworth and Kristen Stewart and Alec Baldwin and Julianne Moore and what is the son's name? Who's the actor?
Hunter Parish.
Yeah, Hunter Parish. Like yeah, everybody's perfect, right? Like just beautiful, wealthy, living in a beautiful house, happy family, eating meals together. Everything is perfect, and you don't want to imagine like that when you're living this life that anything can happen. So I love that because it just like they're like this Buddhist idea of always be ready that let go of expectations because at any point anything can happen. So I think like that sat with me through this. Like I suddenly want to text my mom and text my dad and text my brother and text like somebody in my life who I love a lot. Like hey guys, like I hope everything is okay because it made me feel like tomorrow morning I might wake up and things might not be okay. So I think
Yeah,
that is a really deep, hard hitting message in a subtle way.
yeah. I think once you experience something like this, I think it's hard to, or it's a good reminder to not take life for granted, right? Because you are right. I think literally anything can happen at any point of time. And I think, in fact, every time I visit a hospital for any reason, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
even if it's just in passing,
Yeah.
it always strikes me how busy and how full hospitals are.
Yeah.
And I just always feel like, oh, I'm so lucky to not have anything wrong with me at this point of time because clearly there are thousands, millions of people every day in hospitals for reasons that we don't know, and they're just sick or they're struggling with things. And yeah, that could be you, that could be me, like tomorrow. Like we never know what lies around the corner, and that is very much something that I think we should be conscious of. And I think watching movies like this opens us up to that possibility, even if we've not experienced that ourselves in our life yet.
Yeah.
It's good to have movies like this which you watch and at least gain an appreciation for how fortunate we are, at least so at until this point in our lives.
Yeah. And it also like kind of like I think like how they portrayed the family's life, right? Like they're still eating like good meals. They're still like sitting
Yes.
and hanging out and talking about other things. The daughter is still like, going and like having a baby shower, having babies. One daughter is still at a play. So like life is still just going on, even though like they've had such a big fall in their life and they know they might lose their mother anytime completely. Um, I just feel like it's just like you're sitting with like almost like you've got a heavy heart and you're just like sitting with that knowing that tomorrow something could just happen to my life and then life still goes on. Like you don't die, like nothing changes. You still have to go to work, you still go do things.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine that. Like maybe tomorrow, like on Monday, I wake up and like there's an accident and I lose my legs or like whatever, right? But like life will still go on. I will still have to live. My family will still have to live. Like all like we don't think about this
Yeah.
often, but I think it pushes us to think about be prepared for anything.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention one line which I really liked when we were talking about the scene where she's talking at the conference, where she says that, I think she says, I am struggling, but I'm not suffering.
Yeah,
Don't think that I'm
yeah,
suffering.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that is how, like what you're describing, where the devastating nature of this contrasted with the everyday nature of life, where, okay, life is still going on,
yeah,
and then suddenly this crazy thing happens.
yeah,
But life is also still going on, and we're also dealing with this heavy thing. So they're balancing both aspects well in this movie.
yeah. And you remember that like that video message that she's recorded for herself, like in that folder on her
Of course.
computer. So in that,
Yeah.
like she's reminding herself that you've had a beautiful marriage, you've had 3 beautiful kids. So it's almost like when you're going through a hard time, like I almost like I don't know, but I almost imagine like you forget that you've lived a beautiful life, and she's like inserting it to herself again and again, looking young, looking beautiful. That you've had a perfect, great marriage, you've had great 3 kids, you've been an excellent mother, an excellent professor. So just like reaffirmations to herself of who she was, lest she forgets. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I think, the one of the most devastating scenes in this movie. The one where she. So I'll just describe it briefly for people who haven't seen it. But when she's early on diagnosed with this disease, she records a video for herself on her computer,
Yeah.
and she puts in place a routine where every morning she has to answer some questions,
Yeah.
like what is your name, when is your birthday, what are your children's names, whatever. And she says the day you can't answer any of these questions, go to this folder on your computer
Yeah.
and open this video. I think the folder is called Butterfly, which is where the reference comes in.
Yeah.
And then at some point, she discovers that when she's very sick and she's deteriorated quite a lot.
Yeah.
And the video is pretty much an instruction, like you said, saying that you've lived a great life, but now you're not living such a great life. So go to this particular place in the house, go to the dressing table, there's a box of pills, just swallow all the pills, don't ask anyone, don't tell anyone. So she's basically giving her future self instructions to end her own life, which is very, very tragic. And when she eventually tries to do it, it's even more tragic because she keeps forgetting the instructions. So she sees the video and she starts walking up the stairs towards her room. But then halfway up the stairs, she's forgotten. So she goes back down and watches the video again. And it takes her like 5 or 6 attempts to even understand what she has to do. And then eventually she drops the pills and she can't take them. And then, like you said earlier, the next transition is just to some other scene of ordinary life.
So Aditya,
So,
like I forgot to like debrief like this episode, but I think like this is so like scary because like what like don't you like sometimes as a viewer wish that maybe she should have just like killed herself at that time?
yeah.
But have like just like ended the misery, because at the end you just see her like completely gone and Lydia's shaking her mom, and that this high power woman is just like now like a branch just like sitting. So like desperation with which she's trying, like going back, trying, and then the housekeeper comes and she just drops everything. Like you just like it's so dark. She was this close to just like ending her life, and she didn't. Yeah.
This is, I mean, you're right. I think about this a lot. So I'm curious to get your opinion. So, okay, so like in this movie, for example, there's a point where the doctor tells Alice that
Yeah.
you can actually have your children take a genetic test
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is a family, this is likely
Yeah.
hereditary. So if you have it, there's a 50-50 chance that your children are going to have it as well. And the children have the option.
Yeah.
So they can take the test, they don't need to take the test.
Yeah.
But if they take the test, they'll know for sure whether they're going to get this disease or not.
Yeah.
And I think one of her kids, like Kate Bosworth,
Yeah.
elects to take it, and then she finds out that she's positive, and whatever. So if you had a chance to do something like this, where doesn't have to be that you have this in your family or whatever, but if you had a chance where you could take a test and find out whether in the future you're going to get a devastating disease or not, would you want to do something like that? I'm curious.
I definitely would. Like I want to know everything that will happen in my life so that like I can plan my life like accordingly. Like take risks and play games accordingly. Because
it wouldn't deflate your will to live, you think?
No. Like actually, like as somebody like when I saw Julianne Moore like giving that lecture, going for a run, this that like I kind of like related with her character because like I run an organization, I'm working on my next book. Like if I like even on a Saturday, like I've got like a full day ahead of me planned with things. So like sometimes I'm almost like I look at life and being like throw a challenge my way. Let's see how I don't solve it. So I like to like play these provocative games with life. I like thinking about what if a challenge came my way, what would I do? And I think that's also one of the reasons why I picked this movie and why I enjoy this movie is because like I like to see like how life will bend me. And when I watched this movie, like for a second, it just was like I was like, this can happen to me, or like this can happen to someone in my family. So I would like totally want to take the test.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would be on the other end of the spectrum where I would not want to take it because I feel like if I don't know what's going to happen, I still feel in control of the future where, okay, maybe I am going to get this disease, but I don't know for sure. And if I don't know, then all bets are off. I can do things to, it doesn't feel foreordained anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel preordained anymore.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I still can do stuff, live healthily, eat healthy, like work out, whatever, take precautions, do things to like prevent myself from getting this disease. Yeah. Whereas if I have taken a genetic test and it's telling me that with 100% certainty you are going to get this, and I feel like the weight of that science would press upon me, and I feel like I would feel defeated to some extent. Maybe, I don't know, because that's usually not how I function. Similar to what you said, I usually like challenges and I like doing difficult things, but I don't know whether that would extend to knowing that I'm going to die or knowing that I'm going to, get like a devastating disease. Yeah. I don't know, but my strong inclination is to not take a test like that.
Yeah. No, I would like. I like cheeky. I like to be cheeky with life. So like if there is a chance that I might get Alzheimer's and there's a test that tells me, I would take it because then I'd be like, what can I do to like prevent it? Like what like it would give one more like interesting aspect to my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Although now that you mentioned this, I'm reminded of another movie I saw a few months ago. It's this Abhishek Bachchan movie called I Want to Talk. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't. It's recently came out in 2024, directed by Shujit Sircar. So Abhishek Bachchan plays a guy who is diagnosed with cancer in that movie, and I think he's playing a real person. It's based on a true story, and the guy is a survivor. Like in real life, he's a survivor of cancer, and he's had like some 23 surgeries or something, and he's still going, even after being told that he had 2 years to live, like 20 years ago or something of that sort, right? So one quote that I really like from that movie is that he talks, I forget the exact quote now, but the gist of it is that he's talking about how all of these illnesses and all, it's always like you're going to live 5 years on average, you're going to live 6 years on average, and so on. And he says, if you look at it that way, everybody in the world has 1.5 kids. Yeah. But have you ever met somebody who has exactly 1.5 kids? Yeah. So he says averages are like always misleading. So just because something is on average been this way doesn't mean that you're going to fulfill that average.
I love it.
And I think the same might hold with this disease sort of thing. Like, okay, on average, 90% of people who have this gene or whatever are going to get this disease. But you don't have to be that 90%, right? You could be, that's just an average.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's come to the last reason that you mentioned why you like this movie, and that's just the ending and how they've shown the memories. You want to elaborate on that? The flashes of old memories.
Yeah. So I think like I almost if you had to like direct a movie on Alzheimer's, right, Aditya? Like if like I had to direct or write a book or like be an actor, like I audition for a lot of ads constantly, and the ads that I don't get, no, I see those on YouTube always, and I'm just like, thank God you had me here. But anyway, like I'm just like, if I had to think of a movie like this on Alzheimer's, like how would you want to show now and the bygone? And I think like how they've shown it is just really beautiful, where like for the first like 20-25 minutes she's just like living a life, like busy doing things, this that, and then she misses the word, she's going for a run, she loses her way, she goes to the hospital, and then slowly you start seeing flashes of a beach with children laughing and like all grainy, and like you just start seeing flashbacks, and like I think like that just like makes like I think they've shown like without the family ever doesn't talk, like the family doesn't sit and talk about past memories, she doesn't talk to her family about like remember when we were growing up, or it's not like like sometimes you might see with Alzheimer's, like she starts to like recall past things to family, like she's still living in the present. It's like her life is all in the present, but like suddenly the brain falls back into the beach. So I think the directors made a really interesting choice where there's not like much discussion of like nostalgia or like we used to do this or the past or remember when our babies were little. Like you don't see Alec Baldwin like suddenly being like, remember when Lydia was born. Like you don't see any of that, right? Like you don't see any of that drama. They're living in the current, going to doctors, going to conferences. She's at the Alzheimer's conference, like talking about like what is it like to be with Alzheimer's. You wouldn't think something like that, but like you just see this like their happy life like coming to her on the beach, like kids running, husband and wife. So I think, and you can't see if it's their family or any other family. So it's not like obvious that it's Lydia and Alex or like whatever, John. Um, so it's just really good the way they've shown memories, like life just passing by, life just floating by. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the other thing we forgot to mention is that Alice in this movie actually has had a very challenging life, which is not very obvious
huh,
given the fact that she's living this perfect life now. She's this top professor, she's in charge of everything,
yeah,
she's got everything in place. But when she was young, her mother and sister died in a car crash when she was 18 years old or something. And then I think her dad got some liver disease and he also passed away a few days later. So it's a difficult life that she's led, but she's seen a lot of personal tragedy.
yeah, yeah,
But at the same time, you do get the sense that the memories that she has of life are positive. Like you said, the beach
yeah,
and everything that she's thinking about. So she seems like a fundamentally optimistic person or a fundamentally positive person as who's not dwelling on the bad things that life
yeah,
has thrown her way.
yeah, yeah. No, that's right. And it's
Yeah.
almost like again like the philosophical thing of like the good always washes away the bad in your life. So like you just see this indulgent big family like doing things, busy with each other, just living this life. And you probably like it just keeps washing away probably all the hardships that she's going through. Because when she's going through like a memory lapse, you're right, like she's not seeing the death key scenes or like, getting bad professor reviews or anything like that. Like you're just seeing happy family memories. So like since I
Yeah.
come from a very big family and like I'm very close to my family and I'm very close to people I love. So like there's nothing more important to me than the relationships in my life. I hold them very dearly. So I almost imagine like if the worst was to happen in my life, like I would like just remember my life in a beautiful way, and I think that just like relates that like maybe the meaning of life is the quality of love and happiness that you have, and that gets me to the last scene where like Lydia is reading her play to her and she's totally withered out and she hasn't died yet, right? Like I thought like maybe the last scene will just be she lying in a bed or she like dying,
Yeah.
like Alec holding her hand and doing his work, and she's not recognizing anyone. But actually, like she's just sitting with Lydia. Lydia's reading a play, and she's like, "Mom, did you hear what I'm saying? Did you hear what the play was about?" And she's like, "Love." Like she finds the words to say that. So I think like that kind of summarizes the film for me. That how love holds this woman and this family.
Yeah, that's a great note on which to end the film, and I think also a great note on which to end our conversation about the film, because that does summarize it. One kind of sad thing that I discovered, which is again sad but inspirational, while reading up about this movie. So, like I mentioned, the movie was directed by Richard Gladser and Wash Westmoreland, who are a married couple. And apparently, right before they started making this movie, Richard was diagnosed with ALS, what is it? Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease. So they were wondering whether or not they should go ahead and make this movie, because it's sort of now cutting a little too close to home, where one of this couple has got a neurodegenerative disease, and the movie's about another neurodegenerative disease. But they said that's probably a reason why we should make this movie. And while they were making this movie, Richard's condition deteriorated even more, and I think at some point he was only able to like use one finger to type on an iPad, and his husband Wash was able to like direct most of it, and do more than Richard was. But yeah, they still split directing duties between them. And when Julianne Moore won the Oscar for this, she directed it. She dedicated it to Richard Gladser, because he was very ill at the time, and I think they weren't even able to attend the Oscar ceremony because he was very unwell. And he passed away like a couple of months after this, after she won the Oscar. But it's crazy that even the method of making this movie was sort of embodying what the movie was about also.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
What a good ending to this conversation.
Yeah, I found that very inspirational.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much, Devangana. I think that's our conversation about this movie.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a great way to start a weekend. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you good to do a short quiz before we conclude?
Oh no, I will not do anything with short. Like I said, I'll fail. I'm very bad at quizzes. Go.
That's fine. So just so you know, I mean, this is not to test you. This is just to give our viewers and listeners additional fun context around this movie, like just things that relate to this movie either directly or indirectly. So, like I said, if you're learning something new and you're having fun, you're winning.
So I'm just gonna learn because I will not know anything.
Okay. And a lot of these questions are kind of, I've given some hints and all in case you want to guess them. But if you can't guess them, don't worry about it. No pressure. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I have 5 questions only, since you had 5 reasons why you like this movie. Okay, so one is, what connects Still Alice to these 3 other films produced by Sony Pictures? Annie, Mr. Turner, and To Write Love on Her Arms. These are the 3 movies. Annie, Mr. Turner, and To Write Love on Her Arms. So what connects Still Alice to these other 3 movies that are also produced by Sony Pictures? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with an incident that happened in November 2014.
It has to do with an incident that happened in November 2014.
Yeah, it's related to an incident that happened during that time, which you probably have heard of, but you may have forgotten because now it's like 10 years ago.
Is it like the Me Too something? I don't know.
No, not Me Too. But yeah, it was kind of like a well-known... It became like a big thing in Hollywood, let's say, because it was like an incident that had big implications for Hollywood, and also with almost like a diplomatic incident with the US, almost.
I don't know, tell me.
Okay, so there was this hack of Sony Pictures, if you remember, in 2014, where they were coming out with this movie called The Interview, which was a satire on Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And a group of North Korean hackers, or hackers backed by North Korea, hacked Sony Pictures, and they kind of just released all their emails. They released some unreleased movies. They leaked them online and all of that. So one of the movies that was unreleased at that point but was leaked online was Still Alice, and these 3 other movies as well.
That's interesting. That's awesome. Wow.
That's the answer to that.
Wow.
Do you remember hearing about that Sony Pictures hack?
I think so.
Yeah, it was a big deal at that time.
I think so.
That Seth Rogen and James Franco movie, The Interview, they were trying to get that stopped from releasing.
Interesting. Where did they release it? They hacked it and released it where?
Just online, they leaked it online
That's awesome.
on some Pirate Bay or some like piracy websites.
Yeah, I do remember the hacking thing, but yeah, I don't remember the detail. That's awesome.
And they found some embarrassing emails, like obviously studio executives talking about actors behind their back. There was an email that said Angelina Jolie is a spoiled brat.
Oops.
There was an email where they were going to meet Obama, and they're like, let's talk about Django Unchained when we meet him because it's like a black movie. And they found some really I think the president of Sony Pictures had to step down when all of that came out.
Oh, God, wow.
Okay, question number 2. So Julianne Moore won the Oscar for Best Actress for this film in 2015. Now at the same ceremony, the actor X, won Best Actor. Previously, X had played Julianne Moore's son in a film called Savage Grace. And he credited her with helping his career because she fought to keep him in the movie after a producer wanted him removed. So who is X, basically, who won the actor at the same time? I'll give you a hint. I only put this question because I came up with a fun hint for it. This actor's surname sounds like it's describing their shared hair color. So Julianne Moore and this actor have this similar hair color. And this actor's surname sounds like a description of that hair color. When I tell you the answer, you'll know what I mean. But I know it's worded very confusingly.
No, I get it. Go for it.
Eddie Redmayne. So Eddie Redmayne won the Best Actor for Theory of Everything, in which he played Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
And in the previous movie called Savage Grace, he had played Julianne Moore's son.
No, I haven't watched
So this was when... Yeah, even I haven't watched it. But when he was... this was early on in his career. So I guess the producer was not confident in him and he wanted Eddie Redmayne out. But Julianne Moore said, this guy actually looks like my son because we have the same hair color, same freckles and everything. And he's a good actor, so don't kick him out.
That's amazing.
And yeah, of course, red mane sounds like red mane of hair.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I didn't know he won this same year for Theory of Everything.
Same year, yeah.
What a beautiful movie. We could have even discussed that.
That's also, and even the year after that, I think he was nominated for Danish Girl, which is also very good. His performance in that is really good.
That's amazing, yeah.
Okay, third question, another kind of movie-related question. Sticking to Julianne Moore, in 2015, she actually won what is called the quintuple crown of Best Actress Awards. So not only did she win the Oscars, she also won the Golden Globe, the Screen Actors Guild Award, the BAFTA Award, and the Critics' Choice Award. So all 5 major awards she won for this movie. The previous year in 2014, an Australian actress had won the same thing, like the same quintuple of all the 5 major awards for Best Actress. And in a crazy and funny coincidence, Alec Baldwin played the husband of that actress as well in the movie that she won for.
I don't know, tell me.
Okay. It's Kate Blanchett and in Blue Jasmine.
What a good movie, yeah.
That's a great movie also. Amazing. And also another coincidence is that that movie also has the name of the character in the title, just like Still Alice, Blue Jasmine.
Correct.
So,
what a good
funny
movie. Yeah, what a good movie also. Good question.
Okay.
Amazing.
Fourth question is not related directly to this movie, but it's about Alec Baldwin. So, in 2011, Alec Baldwin was removed from a plane before takeoff. So, he was ejected from a plane before takeoff. Because at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, he was doing something because of which he was removed from a plane. And that something is shown in this film also as a brief thing.
I do remember him being removed from a plane because of E-News, but I don't know, what was he doing?
You want to take a guess? It's something that was shown in this movie, that's a hint.
In Still Alice it was shown.
Yeah, in Still Alice it's shown in a much different context, obviously. It's not shown as somebody doing that and then getting thrown out, but that activity that he was doing was shown in this movie. It's he was playing Words with Friends.
Oh, no way, he was removed for playing Words with Friends.
Because he refused to turn off his phone and he just became very intimidating or whatever.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious, right? Like,
that's why I saw it in E-News. That's crazy.
The cabin crew was trying to get him to turn off his phone, and he became aggressive with them, saying, "I'm playing this game and I'm not going to turn my phone off."
That is crazy. I think sometimes actors just do the drama to make news.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin has had a few of these
Yeah.
incidents.
He's had lots. Huh. That's awesome. What a good.
Okay, last question. Last question is okay, you either know this or you don't. Okay, but I had to put this in because I found this really funny. Um, okay, so this is I apologize in advance for this question, but this is about the guy who discovered Alzheimer's disease, Alois Alzheimer. So he's a German psychiatrist. Okay, in 1906, Alois Alzheimer presented his findings on the brain pathology and symptoms of what was then called presenile dementia at a meeting of the Southwest German psychiatrists. Now, the attendees at this conference were very uninterested in what he had to say because the lecturer that was scheduled to speak after Alzheimer was about to speak on a particular topic, and it's a two-word topic. Okay, and the audience of 88 mostly male individuals was so eagerly awaiting that discussion that they didn't even ask Alzheimer any questions or comments after his presentation. They just let him go because they wanted the next speaker to come. So can you guess what was the topic of that researcher's presentation? Again, the audience is 88, mostly male.
Erectile dysfunction. I don't know.
Very close, very close.
I don't know.
It's the opposite of. It's kind of the opposite of erectile dysfunction in a sense.
It's Viagra. I don't know.
It was compulsive masturbation.
Oh my god! At the age of 88, that's awesome.
No. Sorry, it's not. They were not 88-year-olds. They were 88 people.
88 people. Sorry, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that hilarious?
So great topic for a conference.
Yeah, that beat Alzheimer's disease. I mean, people are more back then
Totally.
We don't want to hear this what this Alzheimer guy is talking about. Let's get to the presentation on compulsive masturbation.
I love that.
Okay, that's about it for the quiz. So
great questions. It overshadowed all of our conversation. Your last 5 quiz questions. That's
no.
Awesome.
It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking about this movie, and I hope people watch it if they haven't seen it already.
It's so beautiful. Thank you. Such good question. I learned so much today. That's awesome.
I'm glad. So you won.
Yeah.
And before we conclude, do you want to tell people a little bit about your work, where they can find you, where they can follow you and your work?
So I'm basically I used to write for organizations. I don't know if you remember, Aditya, but even Teach for India, I used to send these big emails, and for my team, I used to write all the time. But basically, I'd been a writer for really long across multiple organizations and countries. And then in 2021, I released my first book of poetry, Desierto Florido. Then I released my second book, which actually did really well. So I'm still doing book readings from 26th Kamala Nehru Ridge, 2 years after release. And now I'm on my way. I'm working very tardily towards my third book, which is May I Bombay. It's just a fiction about a girl in 1980s of Bombay from a small suburban part of Vadala. And it's her story written through poetry, prose, and art. Besides that, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm also sometimes active on LinkedIn, not really. So I'm Devangana_M on Instagram. I also run a non-profit for autism, which works out of low-income schools of Mumbai called Brain Bristle. We do excellent, amazing work. So if you would ever want to come and join us, work with us, look up Brain Bristle. It's fabulous. And yeah, I also keep auditioning for ads and things. So I make it to a few, and that pays my bills to go out and drink and eat. So that's my pocket money that I make through acting. So yeah. So that's basically a little bit about me. And yeah, so good to be here and so good to do this.
Awesome. I will include a link to everything that you just mentioned in the description of the YouTube video. So if you want to follow Devangana and her work,
thank you.
Definitely check out her work and her books and the wonderful foundation that she started. So you'll find the links to all of that in the show notes.
Thank you.
So thank you, Devangana. And my appeal, as always, to people listening to this, watching this, is I'm trying to grow this channel. So, like, share, subscribe, comment, do everything that you need to do to support this.
Will do.
And that would be great, because if you like playing words with friends and you enjoyed the words between these two friends,
yes,
then like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Yes, and don't be playing it on an aeroplane is one big advice
Yeah.
we've learned from this.
Don't get ejected from an aeroplane for listening to this.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, Devangana. This was a pleasure.
Aditya, that was so fun. I hope that was good, and I hope it does well. Thank you.